For almost 2,000 years now, people have been trying to figure out where the Antichrist will come from, and what would be the identity of the Antichrist. The prophet Daniel received many prophecies from God about the kingdom of the Antichrist and the Antichrist. If there was any person to ask, we would consult Daniel. But Daniel also was told by God that his prophecies would be sealed and closed until the time of the end. Now is the time of the end, and I believe Daniel's prophecies are about to be unsealed and opened. As we begin our examination of Daniel's prophecies regarding the location of the kingdom of the Antichrist and the future identity of the Antichrist and where he will arise to power and what nationality he might be, it appears that Daniel has been pointing us to the Middle East. But if that's so, then why is it that everybody's been looking at the revived Roman Empire and Europe and the United Nations? Well, if you looked at the Middle East up until the last, say, 10 or 20 years, you'd find it hard to imagine that the Middle East could rise to power. You'd have to look somewhere else if you thought that the Lord was coming back anytime soon. But that's not true anymore. The Middle East is rising to power. Daniel's first prophecy about the kingdom of the Antichrist comes in Daniel 2, where Daniel sees a statue, and the statue has a head of gold that we see is identified as Babylon, a chest and arms that we find out becomes Media Persia, and the belly and thighs that becomes Greece. And then there's ultimately the legs and feet of iron, which is identified as a fourth kingdom, a kingdom that will arise on the earth. But at the time of that kingdom, it will be destroyed, and the kingdom of God will be established. So we see this statue in Daniel, and we see the first three kingdoms identified. Putting the statue of Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece over the area that it represented kind of gives us a picture. Babylon was pretty much in the center of this map and around Iraq, and then Media-Persia expanded the empire from Iran into parts of Turkey and Egypt, and then Greece expanded the empire from Greece all the way to India. But it took over pretty much all the land that you see represented on this map. The feet of this statue are probably not going to end up in another part of the world, so we might assume that Daniel is pointing us from this whole statue to the Middle East. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel saw four great beasts come out of the sea. And of course we know the first three beasts, Babylon, Media-Persia, and Greece. Babylon like a lion, Media-Persia like a bear, Greece like a leopard. The fourth kingdom, we are told, has 10 horns, and then a little horn arises and subdues or defeats 3, which would leave 7 heads. Then the fourth kingdom might have 7 heads and 10 horns. Now let's look at Revelation 13. We're looking at Revelation 13 because Revelation 13 describes the rise of the Antichrist. And in the beginning of 13 it says the beast coming out of the sea had 10 horns and 7 heads, resembled a leopard, had feet like a bear, and a mouth like a lion. The fourth beast kingdom, with its 10 horns and 7 heads, resembled the characteristics of Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. Like Daniel 2, this kingdom and the fourth beast kingdom is coming from the Middle East. Once again, considering Daniel's prophecies in Daniel chapter 7, we look at this area represented by the kingdoms of Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece, and then we see in Revelation that the characteristics are the same of the lion, a leopard, and a bear, and this kingdom has 10 horns and then 7 heads. And this is the kingdom of the Antichrist, will rise from somewhere in this area that we see in the Middle East. From the prophecy regarding the kingdom of the Antichrist and the Antichrist in Daniel 8, we're told that out of the kingdom of Alexander the Great will come 4 kingdoms, and one of those kingdoms will be the kingdom of the Antichrist. And at the end of the age, the Antichrist will rise to power and dominate the whole earth until the Lord returns and sets up his kingdom. But this is the area from which the Antichrist will arise. I hope you've seen my other presentation on Daniel's 77s, because that'll help you. But in Daniel chapter 9, Daniel identifies the Antichrist as being of the people who destroyed the city and the sanctuary. The city and the sanctuary was destroyed by the army of Titus, represented by Syrian conscripts in his army. So Syrians destroyed the city and the sanctuary in 70 AD. The map on the left here depicts Syria at that time. Syria would have encompassed present-day Syria, all of Lebanon, and a little bit of Turkey. So today, if we were looking for the Antichrist to rise from the same area of the people of Syria of 70 AD, it could be Turkey, Syria, or Lebanon. But once again, the Antichrist looks like he's coming from the Middle East. In Daniel chapter 11, we learn a lot about the Antichrist, but not much about where he's from. But in Daniel 11:40, we're told that he's the king of the north. Now, in biblical prophecy, when the prophets referred to the king of the north, sometimes they were referring to a king or the country in Iraq, but it also could refer to Syria or Lebanon or Turkey or even the northern part of Iran. So, once again, Daniel is pointing us to the Middle East. Again, now is the time of the end. Daniel's prophecies and other prophecies in the Bible are being unsealed and opened. And it's time for God's people to be alert and keep watch as Christ instructed in the Olivet Discourse. There's many prophecies in the Bible about the time of the end, and if they're being opened and unsealed, it's time to be reading and finding out what is going on and be prepared.